Tadaima! I'm home! Urgh, it's freezing outside!
Oh, Kyrie-no-sai, welcome back. I'll brew a nice hot cup of tea right now to get you all warmed up.
Thanks, Oba-chan! Ah, that's so much better! I feel all warmed up right to the bones! There's nothing like a hot cup of tea on a cold winter day.
I completely agree. And so do many others.
They do?
Of course. It's for that reason that there are a number of special types of tea ceremonies that are only held in the wintertime.
Wait a minute! You mean to tell me that there are more than one type of tea ceremony?
Why, of course! For example, the Kuchikiri-no-chaji that is held every year in November.
The Kuchikiri-no-chaji?
Oh, the Kuchikiri-no-chaji.
Say that 3 times fast, Oba-chan.
Oh!
Every year, when tea leaves are harvested in the spring, they're stored in a clay jar in a cool place, so that they can dry out and become usable tea leaves. Long ago, many families would even bury their tea leaf jars in the mountains in order to ensure that their tea leaves would retain the strongest flavor and aroma possible. But today, many tea producers use cellars or even special tea refrigerators.
That makes sense. Go on.
Just like you mentioned before, nothing beats a warm cup of tea on a cold day, which is why the beginning of winter is celebrated with the opening of the new jar of tea. After all, the fresher the tea, the better the flavor. And if you're going to be cold, you might as well be happy enjoying tea.
So, in other words, the Kuchikiri-no-chaji is not only to celebrate the fresh tea, but also to welcome the cold, long days of winter?
Exactly. Or should I say, exact tea.
So, are there any other seasonal tea ceremonies in Japan?
Why, of course. For example, right before the Kuchikiri-no-chaji is the Nagori-no-chaji, to enjoy the last remaining tea leaves from last year's batch. I am not going to say this 3 times. Since this is the very last remaining tea leaves from the previous year, the flavor is not quite as strong as a fresh batch.
It sounds kind of like a sad occasion.
In a way, it is. The atmosphere for the Nagori-no-chaji is a bit somber, but it reminds us that to enjoy the happy times in life, such as the Kuchikiri-no-chaji, we must also go through difficult or burdensome times, such as the Nagori-no-chaji.
Wow, that's really deep. It's almost like 2 types of the same coin.
Precisely. Another set of seasonal tea ceremonies in Japan that complement each other are the Akatsuki-no-chaji and the Yuuzari-no-chaji.
How are they different?
The Akatsuki-no-chaji is held in the early morning of a cold winter day, just as dawn breaks. Likewise, the Yuuzari-no-chaji is held during dusk in the summer, on a warm day, just as the sun sets.
But wouldn't it be too dark for a tea ceremony if it's held either before sunrise or after sunset?
Not quite. These tea ceremonies are held partially by candlelight. As the sun rises, you no longer need the candles. And then suddenly, everything about the room, from the utensils to the tea to even people's faces, looks completely different than when you entered, as light rushes in. Likewise, during the Yuuzari-no-chaji, you feel the world start to fade away as the sun sets, and you must rely on your memory to recall what the contents of the room look like.
Wow! That sounds like an unreal experience! I cannot wait to try both tea ceremonies out for myself!
They are something truly special indeed. Another pair is the Asa-cha and the Yobanashi.
I've heard of these. The Asa-cha is an early morning tea in winter, and the Yobanashi is an evening tea in the winter.
Looks like all those tea ceremony classes have been paying off. You've become a real smarty.
Whoa! Another type of ceremony we learned about in tea ceremony class is the shoburo. This is the first use of the portable brazier in the spring. I got to attend one last May, and it was very long with lots of speeches and formalities.
Yes, as you know, there are two categories of tea ceremonies in Japan. A Chakai, which is a small, informal gathering with some sweets and such, and the chaji, a formal ceremony such as you have described, and we have been talking about today. These are typically much longer and have a lengthy process that is very precise.
Speaking of which, my tea ceremony sensei had something about holding a Hatsugama sometime soon. Do you know what that is?
A Hatsugama? Wow, you are in for a treat. The Hatsugama is the boiling of the first kettle and is typically the only time that a teacher will perform a full chaji for their students.
You mean that I get to see sensei perform? During class, she usually just guides and instructs me on how to do whatever aspect of the chaji we're practicing that day. I've never actually seen her do it, though.
It is indeed special in that way, since chaji are so long. During class, it is typically broken up into elements for students to practice, and the traditional Japanese teaching style encourages them to guide their students rather than to show them.
I never thought of it like that. Speaking of which, I've got class in a bit, but I've got to run. Thanks for the tea, Oba-chan, and thanks for teaching me all about types of tea ceremonies.
Oh, before you run, please subscribe to my granddaughter Cha-cha's YouTube channel. She teaches a lot about Japanese tea.
Yes, Oba-chan. Bye!